Sir, yeah. Okay, can you see the slide, students?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
We
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Acha, we are at V model, right? Okay, fine. So now I can start. Okay. Uh, so V model. So we are going through the another process model, that is V model. So it is also a variant of waterfall model. So that means it is also based upon the waterfall model. Here in this model, so validation and verification activities throughout the development life cycle. Whereas in case of waterfall model, so what do we try to do? We carry out this validation during the testing phase only. Okay, I mean during the testing phase. Whereas here, this validation and verification, they will be carried out throughout the development life cycle. Okay, so that is what the difference. So ultimately we are doing this, through this model, what we are going to achieve? We are going to achieve the reduction in number of bugs, okay, in the actual product. So use in projects concerned with the development of safety critical software that are required to have high reliability. So usually we apply this V model to develop safety critical softwares, because we need to give utmost care to the reliability part, because it is a safety related software. So that means it should be thoroughly tested. I mean, there should not have any problem in terms of failures. Okay, so that is the reason why so V model is suitable for safety critical softwares. It includes two phases. That is what exactly. So there is a development phase and there is a validation phase. So left half represents development phase and right half of the model represents. We will see what is left half and right half. Okay, so but left half represents the development phase. Okay, so this is what exactly happens. Okay, so this left part contains what? Requirement analysis, specification, high level design, and then coding. Okay, so these are actually the development phases. Okay, and the right side is the validation phases. Okay, so validation usually the testing part, right? So you have unit testing, integration testing, and systems testing, right? Now what we try to do here in this, you can see, so we develop system test design. Okay, that means we design system test cases. Okay, uh, while doing requirement analysis and specification, we design some test cases. While doing a high level design, we have some test cases, and they are all called integration test cases, right? And while developing the software, okay, or implementing the software, that means while coding the software, we develop unit test cases. Now what exactly happens here is we plan and develop these test cases during the development phases, but those test cases will be executed during the validation phase only, corresponding validation phase only. Okay, so that is what. So we only design the test cases and we plan the testing during the phases, but their actual execution of those test cases will be carried out in the validation phase. Okay, but that will be carried out correspondingly. Okay, so first will be say, maybe it will be done like this. Again, unit testing will be carried out, integration testing will be carried out, and thereafter finally system testing will be carried out. Okay, so we'll talk about this unit testing, integration testing, system testing, all while we are talking about the testing syllabus topic. But you can understand as of now, so each and every individual module is tested using unit testing, and And then we try to test the interfaces while we integrating these modules. That is what we do at the integration testing, and system testing is actually executed to see the overall system, whether the developed software meets the requirement of the user or not. This is what exactly we try to say. Okay, so in each and every development phase, the test case design plan are carried out, but the actual testing will be carried out during the validation phase. Okay, so the validation plan created during the development phase is carried out in the corresponding validation phase. This is what already I explained you. In the validation phase, 3 different steps of testing during the validation phase are performed to detect defects that arise in the corresponding phases of software development. We have seen integration testing, unit testing, and system testing. These are the 3 different testing steps of testing. So they are actually carried out during the validation phase so as to detect defects that arise in the various phases. Now, so if you see when you compare V model with the waterfall model, you can see in part of iterative waterfall model, so the testing activities are combined to the testing phase only. That means, so the testing, I mean, test case design and planning. So all testing related activities are carried out in the testing phase only. Whereas in this V model, that these testing activities are spread over the entire life cycle. That means, so here you can see. So part of requirement analysis specification, we have designed some test cases. Part of high level design, we have designed some test cases. Part of coding, you have developed. That means now your testing activities, they are spreading across all the different phases. But whereas in the waterfall model, these all testing activities will be carried out during the testing phase only. Okay, that is what the difference. So then what are the advantages of this V model? The testing activities are carried out in parallel with the development activities. So this is the way that you can think of. So during the development only, we have carried out certain testing activities, right? As a result, what will happen? So we are going to get a shorter testing phase. We are going to get a shorter testing phase. Okay, that means many of the activities already executed during the development phases. As a result, what we will try to see as a result, so we see that the development gets faster as compared to the iterative model. So test cases are designed before the schedule pressure built up and leads to quality of test cases. Okay, that means what we are trying to say. So usually testing is almost a last phase in the life cycle model, right? By the time we are coming to the testing phase, maybe sometimes it might happen, there will be a pressure from the client side saying that you should deliver this product. Maybe it is getting delayed or getting there is a delay in deployment on all these things. So because of that, they might create some sort of pressure, right? Now before that pressure, so what will happen? Because there is something like this. Okay, so the software will be developed delivered within 1 year, right? By the time you are coming to the testing phase, maybe it is already, let's say 10 months is over. Now there is a 2 months left. Okay, so the client will ask the development team saying that you should deliver within 1 year. That means, so there is only 2 months left to deliver that product. Now there is a sense of pressure built up, in the testing team. That means they have to carry out the activity within 2 months, otherwise the software will be failed. Okay, so now as a result, what will happen? So they might not be able to design the test cases very properly, okay, appropriately. So as a result, we will not be able to get the quality test cases. So that is what happens, right? So if you have already carried out many testing activities during the development itself, so as a result, maybe you can give enough time, while executing these test cases. As a result, you will be able to give the quality software. That means quality test cases, right? So this can be one advantages. The other advantages is, so the test team is reasonably kept occupied throughout the development cycle. So I mean, so the test team is also involved in all of the phases. That means they are not sitting idle. Okay, that means you are trying to utilize the manpower very efficiently. Okay, you will be able to do, if you're going through this V model, you will be able to utilize the manpower efficiently, because they are also kept busy in working with other phases. So as they are working with the other phases, I mean all the throughout the development phase, they are they are involved. As a result, what will happen? So they will get better understanding on different development artifacts. Okay, I mean, because this test team is involved during requirement analysis, during design, during coding. They are also involved. As a result, what will happen? So they will get a better understanding, right? When they get better understanding, so it will be helpful while designing the quality test cases. Okay, while designing the test cases, so it will help them because they have got a better understanding, right? So this could be another advantages. Now, what is the disadvantages of this model? So because it is also a variant of classical waterfall model, so this model also inherits the weaknesses of waterfall model. That is one of the important disadvantages of this. Okay. Now, there is another development model called incremental development model. So far, any doubt question regarding B model? So can I continue with the incremental development model?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now there is another model called incremental development model. Okay, sometimes we call also known as successive versions of successive versions model. So where what we try to do is, whatever the whole system that you have, that will be divided into several modules, and these modules will be implemented incrementally and then delivered. So like you have, let's say you have a system that will be developed into 10 modules. So first we will try to develop 3 modules, and thereafter we try to develop another 3 modules, and thereafter we try to develop another 4 modules, right? So I mean, incrementally we try to implement these modules, and after every increment, so we try to deliver it to the client. So this is what exactly we do in case of incremental model. But you see, so usually we develop the core modules of the system. So first we try to develop the core modules. Okay, that means these are the modules. So they are very independent modules, you can say. Okay, so I mean, they do not have any dependency on any other modules, right? But the next, in the next versions, whatever the modules we will be going to develop, they actually will be dependent on these core modules. Okay, because you can think of like this: when you are going through developing any operating system, so your kernel is the very core of the operating system, right? So you first develop the kernel of the operating system, and thereafter you keep on adding various other processes. Okay, right? So similarly here is also like, you first develop the important modules, core modules, okay, and then you go on to the next version where you add few other modules, right? And then you keep on refining those things, okay, so as to come up with a very complex system. Okay, whatever the complex system ultimately we are going to develop, so we come up with that, right? So that means what you try to do at each and every version, you keep on adding few functionalities. Okay, give to delivering that particular software to the client. So the successive versions of the product. So usual, yes. Any doubt?
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Sir, in development model, is there no implementation maintenance phase?
Uh, no, what we are trying to say here is, so I mean, we are developing. Okay, so here also we are doing all these things, right? We will follow some sort of, again, waterfall model kind of things. Again, you will be applying to each and every version. Okay, as I said you. So whatever the whole requirement that you have, okay, when I going to next slide, that will be clear. Okay, you keep. So what we try to do here is, so I mean, in part of each and every new release, what you will get, you will get some new functionalities, because this is what exactly happens, right? So first you develop the core modules, you deliver to the client, okay, and then you further added few other modules to the core modules, and then you getting delivered, that software is getting delivered to the client, right? So now that means every version has some new features, as well as while you releasing that particular version to the client, you can make some enhancement to the existing modules also. Okay, so this is also being carried out. So enhancement is also done to the existing modules, right? So now this is something like this. So initially you develop a module and then you develop B module. Okay, so now in the next version you have A and B, right? So in the further next version you will have A, B, C. So this is the way that it is exactly developed. Okay, and then delivered. So usually part of this incremental model, what you do? So whatever the requirements are gathered and specified. Okay, so once the requirements are gathered and they are specified in the form of SRS. Now the requirements are split into several versions. Okay, now whatever the whole requirement you gathered from the client, and those requirements will be split into different versions, right? So part of certain requirements will be part of version 1, certain requirements will be part of version 2. Likewise, you have certain versions, right? Now what you try to do is, so the next version is constructed using an iterative waterfall model of development. That means, so each and every version will be developed using a iterative waterfall model. That means you again you applying waterfall model. Okay, so to develop each and every version. Okay, and then you will be once the software is developed using iterative waterfall model, and that software will be deployed at the client side. Okay, at any time the plan is made only to the for the next increment, no long term plans are made. Okay, so that means, so while you developing the version 1, so you actually planning for the version 1 only, you planned for the version 1 and you develop using a waterfall model. That means you have not made any plans for the version 2, or you have not made any plans for the version 3 or 4. That means you only making plans for that version only at that point of time. Okay, so this is what exactly we try to do, part of
Sir,
increment. Yes,
sir, each version is deployed at customer site. मतलब
yes,
version 1, then version 2.
yes, yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, because you see, in part of waterfall model, what you do, once the software is developed completely, then only the software will be deployed, okay, in the client side. But here in incremental, so after developing every version, you actually delivering that software to the client. Okay, Now you will see. So by doing so,
Hello,
then
sir.
what sort of advantages we are going to get, we will see that. Okay. So now the first advantages here is, so you do not really require to deploy large resources and manpower in one go. Okay, because it's not that you have to have all the resources as well as manpower, while you developing the version 1. It is not really required, right? Only what you can do is, you can deploy these resources and manpower as a phased manner. Okay, in a phased manner you can deploy. Okay, that is what one of the benefit. Okay, whereas in case of waterfall model, what will happen before you start the development process? So you must have to have almost all the resources deployed. Okay, whereas here it is not required because you only concentrating on a one version. Okay, so you are right, and that is the way that you keep on adding the resources. So users get a chance to experiment with partially developed software much before the full working version is released. That is what the another advantages. I mean, so after each and every version you are delivering at the client side, that means the users are using it, so they are experimenting with the version. Okay, they get better understanding, right? When they use that particular version, definitely it will help us in refining the user requirements as well as. So they so through this particular version, so when the user is going to use it, so they keep on giving some feedback, and based upon the feedback you trying to refine the system. Okay, so that means so usually requirements are also extracted by this sort of approach. Okay, so core modules get tested thoroughly. That means what is happening, as I told you, so first you develop the core modules and thereafter you add few other modules, right? But before you delivering that second version, right, I mean you sometimes you going to enhance the existing modules also, right? That means you enhancing the core modules also, right? And then after enhancing those core modules, and then you also testing those modules, right? That means so every time every successive version is delivered to the client, so these core modules are tested again and again and again. Okay, as a result what will happen, so usually by the end of your last version, these core modules are these core modules get tested very thoroughly. Okay, as a result, so there won't be, you will not find any defects in those core modules, right? So this is because these because other modules are development depends upon these core modules. If there is a defect in the core module, that means it is very costlier affair at later point of time. Okay, if you detect a defect at later point of time in core modules, that means everything needs to be revised, right? So this is one benefit, right? As a result, usually you see there is a reduction in the number of errors in the final product. So these are the benefits that we have seen, right? Now the disadvantages of this is, so it's very difficult for us to divide whole requirement into smaller functional units, okay, or smaller versions. So this is what exactly difficult. Okay, so if it is a, let's say for example, if it is a very small project or the small problem, so it's very difficult for us to divide. Okay, divide and find some incremental modules. Okay, so if it is a very large project, then you can divide into sub modules, and then and then you can develop those modules incrementally. Okay, so that is the reason why this incremental model can be applied only to large projects, not to small projects. Now there is another kind of model, process model called as evolutionary model. So far any doubt regarding increment model?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So now we are talking about the other model called as evolutionary model. So usually,
I have a doubt.
yes, ask me. Okay.
Sir, in incremental development model, how is the manpower getting utilized efficiently?
No, what we are trying to say is, let's say you are developing only core modules. That means you are not developing all of the modules at one go. Okay, you are developing only few modules, so you require very few people. Okay, so let's say you have 100 modules of a particular software, but you are going to develop first 3 modules. Okay, so when you are going to develop 3 modules, so you require only people, not if let's say you wanted to develop all of the module at one go, start developing the all of the module, then what will happen? You require many people, right? And let's say, so sometimes HR department is unable to recruit many people, okay, at one go. While recruitment, they might in a hurriedly they try to recruit many people, maybe inefficient people they are going to recruit it. Okay, as a result, the project will be failed. So if you develop something in a version wise, one version, first version, second version, third version, that means you can plan accordingly, right? So for the first version only, you require these many people. So that means you can recruit quality people. And whatever the resources, let's say, if you have to develop all of the modules, you may require resources. Okay, let's say you require a resource which require more money. Okay. Yeah. So maybe you can think of, let's say, if you wanted to develop all of the modules in an operating system. Okay. So then you might, if you are going to develop all of the module at one go, you might require a operating system which can provide you all the facilities. Okay, I mean all the functionalities of that particular operating system. As a result, now you have to pay a lot of money to the operating system developer. Okay, or the operating system like Microsoft people. Okay, you have to pay if you are going to use Microsoft Windows. Let's say, for example, you are going to develop only 2 or 3 modules which require the light version of operating system. Okay, so light version of operating system is required means you will be paying little amount to the operating Microsoft, maybe to the Microsoft people, right? You'll not be paying all the money. So you can think of like this. So you are not going to make investment, all of these investment at one go. You will be investing your money in a phased manner. So you can think of, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So part of this evolutionary model here is also the same thing happens. Okay, every new release, so new functionality will be added, as well as, so whatever the existing functionalities that you have, so those functionalities will also be modified. Okay, that means they will be enhanced. Okay, so as like the incremental model. Okay, here is also happen, but there is certain differences. We will talk about them. Okay, so in incremental model, the complete requirements are first developed and SRS document is prepared. Whereas in case of incremental model, what you do, as I said you before, the whole requirements are collected and they are specified in the SRS document, right? After that, those requirements will be split into various versions, and then those requirements will be developed one after the other in successive versions, right? Whereas in evolutionary model, what will happen? These requirements, plan, estimates, as well as solutions, they evolve over the iterations. Okay, that means, so when you going through, I mean, the model name itself, you can understand from the name of this model, it is evolutionary. That means the requirements will evolve over time. Okay, the requirements will evolve over time. The plan will evolve over time. Estimates will evolve over time. Solutions will evolve over time. Okay, through different iterations. Okay, that is what the difference is. There, all the requirements are collected at very fast, and thereafter you divided those requirements into versions and then keep on developing them. But here, the requirements itself is not clear. I mean, you you start your development with very few requirements, collected requirements, and then you go on to the next iteration. There you try to get acquire certain other requirements, and on doing all this I mean, you keep on estimating, and let's say the solutions may also modified in each and every iterations, or you can think of the solution may come after a certain number of iterations is a good solution, right? You can think of like this. Okay, so fully developed and frozen in measured upfront specific effort before the development iterations begins, right? But in case of incremental model, what you try to do before you start your development, so everything will be specified. Okay, the requirements will be specified properly. That is what exactly the difference. So as a result, what are the advantages of this evolutionary model? So training can start on an earlier release. Okay, that means here is also something like this. So you giving this particular product after some version is developed to the client. Okay, so now the customer gives feedback, and after taking those feedback, certain requirements will be collected, and then those requirements will be estimated, and then maybe planned, and thereafter again that will be developed, and then again certain modification is done to the current release. Okay, and again it will be released to the customer. Now the customer will give certain feedbacks. Based upon that, again you will be modifying the software. So that means we are going through certain number of versions again here also. I mean, but here what is happening here is now requirements are, all of the requirements are not collected at one go, but it is collected over the time. Okay, now these frequent releases allow developers to fix unanticipated problems quickly. Okay, so because of these frequent releases, so you made some developments into the software, and then you deliver to the client. So client will experience it, and then they will give feedback to us. And again you modify, again you make changes in the current release, and then give it to the user. Okay, so user will use it and then give some feedback. So there is a feedback mechanism going on. So that means the user or the customer is involved during the development. That is what you can see. So the change requests after delivery of the complete software substantially reduced, because every version is used by the user, right? Experienced by the user. So probably, so that change request may not will occur as happens with the waterfall model, right? So in the waterfall model, what will happen? Until or unless the software is developed completely, it is no way delivered to the user. So that means user is not going to give any feedback, right? User will give feedback only when the whole software is delivered to them, and they use that particular software, and then only they will give feedback. Now when they give feedback, or they give some change request, I mean they will have some request to change in the software, and that will be handled through which phase? That will be handled through which phase? Anyone?
Maintenance.
Yes, that will be handled through maintenance phase. Now I told you before also, so if you handle something through maintenance phase, the cost will definitely increase. Okay, because you're going to redo many of the phases, so which will increase the cost, right? So now, but here it is what is happening, because every version the user is used. So I mean, we understand the requirements, we collected the requirements effectively, and also we understood the requirements, and according to their requirements we have made changes. As a result, what will happen once the software is delivered to the customer, you may not be going to see many changes. Okay, handling change requests are easier also. During this process, you will be able to handle these change requests, right? Now, what is the disadvantages with this evolutionary model? So here is also similar to incremental model, because it is also similar to incremental model, but it is a evolutionary, right? So here is also feature division into incremental parts can be non-trivial. That means it is very difficult for us to divide a particular feature into some incremental parts. That is what not a easy task. Okay, so division is not a easy task always. Okay, so here you can see it's a kind of ad hoc design again. Okay, only because only we pay attention to the current increment only, or the current release only. Okay, we plan for the current only. Okay, so we give very less attention towards the maintainability and optimality, because you see, so when you are going through a waterfall model like models, right, where what you see, all requirements are gathered upfront the development of software, and we have gone through a proper planning, right, and then we have properly we have designed, coded, and then it is actually delivered. But here what is happening here is, so we do not go through such sort of things, right? So first we understood certain increments. We understand about certain features or the requirements, and then we started developing that particular increment. Okay, and then we deliver to the client. Now client will give us certain other requirements, okay, after using that particular software, and then we accordingly modify the software. And then again, that means every time every releases follow some sort of ad hoc design, because we are not um, designing properly, right? So as a result, what is happening, so you may not be able to achieve maintainability and optimality. That means you are not going to develop the software which can be easy for us to maintain that particular software, as well as optimality also. It may not be optimum. Okay, optimum quality may not be achieved. Okay, now there is another model called spiral model. Okay, any doubts so far regarding evolutionary model? Can I continue to the next model?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
No,
now
sir.
any question? Anyone is going to ask any question?
No, sir.
Sir,
Continue.
who decides? Sir,
Yes. What is your
sir,
name?
who decides? Sir,
What is
this
your
is
name?
Pragya here, sir. Pragya,
Pragya.
sir.
Okay. Yes.
Sir, who decides which requirements to be included in the core deliverable?
So that is what I said you. So it might be sometimes it is very difficult for us to decide what is a core part and what is a non-core part. Okay, so it's sometimes if it is a very small project, right? If it is a very small project, so it is very difficult. But if it is a very large project, sometimes you will be able to understand, right? So usually the core ones will be the ones which will have no dependency on any other modules, right? But the non-core modules, they are dependent. Okay, so now usually so who decides, as you are saying, who decides the core modules, who decide these things? So usually we, these things will be done through the experienced users. Okay, so because it is a incremental model, right? So if you are going through what you say, your incremental model, there is collected user, and thereafter we are dividing it, right? Those requirements. So those may be done by a particular analyst. The analyst will decide which one need to be given more priority. Okay, which one will not be given more priority. So those things will be finalized, right? Because and subsequently, actually, when we're going through different phases, also like designer will also come into picture, right? So they will be also telling you that these are the modules also needs to be developed. Okay, if at all any feedback required, so you can think of like that. Okay, but initially these things will be given by the analyst based upon his experience. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, you have mentioned that whichever module we create, we need to deliver it to the user.
Okay.
Yes, and then, sir, but like if we have developed a core module and
Okay.
the core module is very raw, sir, it is not very user friendly. So, do we even train the users to use the core module or?
Yes, yes, yes. So that is what the advantages of this model I told you before also, right? So that means so the user is getting experience with each and every versions, right? So they getting some sort of training. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I mean training means what? So they are using that. Okay, you will be telling that these are the modules, and you go through a hands-on. So they will be using that module, and then when they use, then only they can comment. Okay, usually.
Yes.
Then through their comments only we are trying to address those things in the next iteration, maybe in the next version, right? Okay. So now the other model here is a spiral model. So it is proposed by Barry Boehm in 1988. Okay. So now here this model has several loops. We will see through a diagram, then you will be able to understand. But there are various number of loops here. That means because the name itself is a spiral. Okay. So spiral means you have certain number of loops, right? Now here each and every loop will represent a particular phase. Okay, here each and every loop will represent a particular phase. Okay, maybe you can think of the innermost loop. That means the innermost loop may be concerned with the feasibility, because it all starts with the feasibility study, right? So the next loop may be talking about the requirement. Okay, because the requirement analysis, and thereafter the next loop may be the system design, and so on. Okay, but according to this spiral model, there is no fixed phases. Okay, so you can have as many as number of phases. Okay, that means you can have as many as number of loops. There is no fixed number of loops. Okay, so now this is just an example to explain you. So in the next figure you will be able to see. So here, so the team must decide, okay, how to structure the project into phases. Okay, so your whole development team, they will sit together and they will decide, okay, so how many number of phases you really need. Okay, and what would be the structure, I mean what phase should come after which one. Okay, and everything will be done by the team, and start work using some generic model. That means usually we start with some generic model. Okay, maybe as I told you, so you started with the feasibility, because this is what exactly we do in case of waterfall model. So that's a very generic model. Okay, it is being used everywhere. Okay, so requirement analysis should also takes very fast, because that is one the important phase. Okay, so that means you start with some important phases, and then you keep on identifying various other, when you find different other problems, then accordingly you can add the phases. Okay, so and that is what the number of phases will slowly increase when you going to develop a very complex software, right? So each loop in the spiral is split into 4 sectors. Again, each and every loop will be divided into some sectors or quadrants. We will talk about that. Okay, now you can see here. Okay, so the loop, so innermost loop, so from there it first started slowly, right? So and then it is going, it is covering all of the quadrants, right? So like it starts with the first quadrant, it is going to the second, third, fourth. That means that is the one loop. Okay, and now these loops will be increased one after the other. Okay, so here there are only 2 loops we have mentioned, right? Maybe you can have n number of loops. Okay, so that will depends upon the kind of project and whether it is a very large project and whether it has many, it's based upon various complexity. So the development team will decide how many number of loops, but as of now you need to understand. So now each and every phase, okay, can have these again 4 sectors, right? So there what you try to do for each and every phase, we determine the objectives, what are all we going to achieve through this particular phase. Okay, if at all any alternatives are there, if at all any constraints are there, while defining while determining the objectives. Okay, so and then accordingly in the next quadrant we try to evaluate those alternatives. Okay, whatever the alternatives that are there for that particular phase. Okay, as well as what we try to do here is we try to identify the risks associated with those alternatives. Okay, and then we need to handle those risks also. After identifying those risks, we try to handle those risks. Okay, so after that, we are going into the third quadrant where we try to develop the software. Okay, we develop the software. Okay, and then after developing in the fourth quadrant, so whatever you developed, right, you will be reviewing that particular development, and then based after after reviewing the software, developed software, then again you plan for the next phase. Okay, you plan for the next phase. Okay, so again another spiral will start. Again you will have it determining the objectives, alternatives, constraints. You need to evaluate those alternatives, and whatever the risk associated with those alternatives, you try to identify those risks, and then you handle those risks and then develop the software, right? Yes, Rajat, ask me.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, ask me.
Sir, isn't it similar to the iterative model, like in the first phase, like we are determining?
Yes. It carries a iterative nature also. Okay, so we will this question will be clarified when we end up this particular models discussion. So maybe after a few slides this will be clear. Okay, so this is what exactly happens, right? Now you can see. So activities are organized in a spiral having many cycles, 4 quadrants in each cycle. Identify the risk in alternatives and handling the risk. So now, so handling those risks, or so handling those risks can be done by using prototyping again, as we discussed in the prototyping model. So here also you use some sort of prototype so as to handle those risks. Or you can use some simulations. Okay, you can use some simulators, software simulators, or you can have some sort of benchmarking. That means you will be comparing with certain things, existing things, so as to understand or so as to resolve the risks. Okay, so risk handling can be done through prototyping or simulations or benchmarking. Okay, now development step depends on the remaining risk. So now the third quadrant is the development step, right? So that is exactly depends upon the remaining risk. So do prototype for user interface risk. Let's say if you have any user interface risk, right? The user is not clear about what sort of interface they want. Okay, so then you go through a prototype. Let's say, for example, the user, we are very clear with the user interface or the performance issues, right? we do not have any ambiguity, or you do not have any misunderstanding on the performance or the user interface. So it is clearly understood. Then, so that means only the risk that is there is with the development. Okay, there is no risk associated with the requirement, right? So ultimately, this spiral model is a risk driven. Okay, this model is a risk driven. So it allows us to mix up specification oriented, prototype oriented, simulation based, any other approach, right? Because so it allows us to go through a prototype, or it can be allowing us to handle those risks through simulations, right? And it can be simply a specification oriented also, right? Based upon the specification only, maybe it is going to helping you to identify, handle those risks. So one example you can see here is, so if there is a risk of what kind of user interface we should build, then we do prototyping to understand the requirement risk, right? Because the user is not sure of what sort of user interface they want. So you go through a requirement, I mean, you go through a prototype, then only the user will be made understanding on that particular interface, so as you will be going to get some sort of I mean, you will be that risk will not be there. Only risk will be there with the development risk. Okay. So if there is only development risk, then you go through waterfall model. Simply you go through the waterfall model, because there is no risk, so you do not need to go through any prototype model. Okay, so you can go through a waterfall model simply because risk requirement risk is not there if the user interface performance is well understood. Okay, it allows us to mix different model. Now because this spiral model, you see, if the requirement risk is not there, so what you are doing, then you can go with a waterfall model because the requirements are clear. It's according to this, that means we can understand that the requirements are very clear. Then you go with a waterfall model during the development. If let's say there is a requirement risk, then you can go by, instead of going through a waterfall model, you can go through a prototyping model also. Okay, so that means this spiral model allows us to have different models. And now, in the first phase you can have one model, and the second phase you can have another model. Okay, in the third phase you can have another model. Okay, so in each and every loop you can have different models also. You can apply different models. That means it allows us to mix different models. Okay, now that is what again we'll be explaining each and every quadrants of it. So identify objective of the phases, the first quadrant. So there we have already discussed, and we examine the risk associated with these objectives. Okay, if at all any adverse circumstances that might hamper successful completion of a software, right? If at all any risk associated with these objectives, right? You try to examine and identify whether if you're going with this sort of objectives, and if these are the risks associated, then maybe the software will not be able to deliver to the client on time. As a result, the software will be failed. So find alternate solutions possible. So you always try to find some alternative solutions also, right? So that is what exactly we try to give in the first quadrant. And in the second quadrant, what you try to do, so whatever the kind of project and associated risk with each and every object, and they will be analyzed in detail. Okay, and we follow certain number of steps to reduce those risks. That means what you are trying to do, maybe you going through some prototype. Okay, after applying a prototype, you try to understand the requirement properly. As a result, so that requirement risk will be reduced. Okay, in further, so that means we identified the risk in the second quadrant, as well as we try to handle those risks also. Okay, maybe by applying a prototype system. Now in the third quadrant, exactly, So it is developed, the software is developed and then validated. That means the software is tested. And in the fourth quadrant, so we try to get the review results. Okay. So I mean from the user customer, right? So the software will be reviewed, by taking feedback from the customer, and then accordingly we plan the next phase. Accordingly we plan the next phase. So that will be done in the fourth quadrant. We have seen accordingly. Okay. With each iteration around the spiral, progressively more complete version of the software gets built. So that means the more the more the number of iterations developed, that means we have made so much of progress into the towards the complete software. Okay. So that is what exactly the way that we need to understand. So this spiral model is called as a meta model. Okay. Why it is called as a meta model? So we'll discuss. Okay. So now a single loop spiral represents waterfall model. Now you can see. So in a particular single loop in the spiral, the first loop, let's say the first loop. So that can represent a waterfall model kind of thing, because so in the development part you have applied waterfall model. Okay. And before that you have applied risk analysis, as well as you have done the risk analysis, as well as you have resolved the risk, right? And you have identified the objectives. Okay. So those things also done along with this. Okay. So a single loop, you can think that would represent a waterfall model. Uses an evolutionary approach. How it is using evolutionary approach? Because it is going through different iterations, right? So you are going through multiple loops, one after the other, right? So that means again you are going through taking some sort of evolutionary approach, right? So in the second loop, you further take up certain issues, and then those issues related risk, the risk related to those issues are identified, handled, and then again you develop the software. That means again you are going through some sort of iterations, right? So that means it is also a kind of evolutionary approach. Okay, enables understanding and reacting to risk during each iteration along the spiral. Okay, so now what is happening? So in each and every iteration, you understanding a risk, as well as you handling that particular risk. So it is a risk driven model. Okay, so risk is also handled. So it uses prototyping as a risk reduction mechanism, because you are going through prototyping model to handle the, you use a prototype so as to reduce the risk, right? So it also retains the stepwise approach of the waterfall model. Here is also we follow the stepwise approach. Okay, so each and every let's say you followed 10 loops, that means you have followed 10 steps or 10 phases. So this is also kind of waterfall model only. Like there also we have followed certain phases. Here also we are following similarly. So that is why we say it also retains the stepwise approach. Now, because of all these things, so it has a iterative in nature, it has a prototyping in nature, it has a evolutionary in nature. It follows the waterfall model approach, right? So that is the reason why. So this sort of model is called as a meta model, because it has all of these facilities. Okay, so this is so like one student who asked me, sir, it is a iterative or not something. So is it clear to you now?
Hello?
Yes, is it
Yes,
clear
sir,
to
yes.
now? Now it is clear.
Yes, I got to know, sir. We can combine many models.
Yes.
It's
So
mixture of
that is the reason why it is a meta model. Okay, now we try to compare quickly and then we will end up this lecture, right? So so you usually what you try to do in case of iterative waterfall model. So it is assumption that the requirement should be well understood, or the problem should be well understood. Okay, then only you can apply, but that is widely used because you should be going through different iterations. You will be able to detect those defects and then you correct them. So that is the reason why it is mostly widely used. But prototype model is suitable for project not well understood, where the user requirements or the technical aspects they are not clear. In that case, you go through a prototype because you trying to handle you try to resolve the risks, okay, associated with that. So now here you can see the part of prototyping model I told you. So the risk which are handled, okay, I mean the risk which are known, okay, so that is only handled through resolved through prototyping. But some risks which will be come after the development of the software, so those things will not be handled here, but those sort of unknown risks are handled in which model? In the spiral model. So that is why we try to identify the risk here as well as we try to resolve the risk. So the something it is little different. So the known risks are there, then you go through prototyping model. If unknown risks are there, so then you need to go through spiral model. Okay. So evolutionary model is suitable for large problems. Okay, but sometimes it is very difficult for us to divide that into certain number of modules. Okay, and also but here this incremental delivery of the system is acceptable to the customer, right? Once this incremental model is incremental delivery actually is so the delivery is done in an incremental way. That means each and every increment is given to the user to get an experience, right? And part of spiral model suitable for development of technically challenging software products that are subject to several kinds of risks, right? So now what you are saying, though wherever you have several kinds of risks, there is a chances of certain risks, okay, and those risks are not known. Okay, maybe there is a technical risk, or it may be a requirement risk, or it may be any other risk, right? So because it is the spiral model is a risk driven model, so it is going to identify the risk and resolve the risk through applying some prototyping, benchmarking, or simulation, right? So any doubts so far? Again, students, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay,
No,
then
sir.
I can stop now. Yes, Rayan, you want to ask?
No, sir.
Okay, so then I stop this lecture. So just wait. I am going to take the attendance.